Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys joining me for today's episode. And guys, today I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while here on Advanced Bass Fishing. I want to talk about and give you guys some tips and advice on how to be successful at bass fishing and not use a bunch of high priced electronics. Just very simple, electronics that don't cost very much money. You can still do everything you need to do with that. So I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice on what that is and how to use it, especially if you're on a budget like all of us are, or most of us are anyway. This is definitely going to help you guys out in today's episode here. Also, guys, one quick reminder that Tackle Warehouse has got about another week left of that big 12 Days of Christmas sale. Now's a great time to get stocked up on some tackle, or if you're looking for a depth finder or some electronics, they sell them there at Tackle Warehouse too. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. If you guys would like to use that link, it helps the channel out and get you some good deals. And also, guys, a quick reminder that we do have my Fish the Moment winter lake map breakdowns up on the fishthemoment.com website. I'll put that link in the description also. And these are great places that will give you some GPS waypoints to go to some really good fishing places on your favorite lake this winter. Tips and advice with the lures to use on those particular places. So all that stuff will be linked into the description. Really appreciate that. Okay, a lot of you guys that follow my channels, all three of them, if you guys follow my other channels, you've been very aware of my stance against technology, particularly forward-facing sonar and all that type of stuff. But, electronics, they have really gotten super expensive over the past 10 years. Let me sort of explain to you guys the evolution of this. Back from about... actually in the 80s and 90s, most throughout the whole part of the 80s and early 90s, the only thing that most pros used, top level pros, was a flasher, just an old flasher. And we usually had one on the console and one up front. There were some people that had some paper graphs and some rudimentary LCD, 2D sonar stuff, but most people used the flashers, the old flashers. And those were great. I could probably do as good as I do now and use nothing but a flasher. Flasher's a good tool. And it's only been the past 10 years we've seen this explosion in electronic prices since they developed down imaging and side imaging, now forward-facing sonar and different GPS applications. So it's absolutely stupid how much electronics cost. But what I want to do today, guys, is I want to talk about how you can do really good in bass fishing and how you can be successful having cheap electronics that don't cost very much. Now, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the only thing you need. You can basically get by with just 2D sonar for everything. So if you really want to save some money, like I said, there's a lot of different units out there, Humminbird, Lowrance, they all make very low priced entry-level 2D sonars. A lot of them are $200 to $300, and and you're good to go. Put one on the console, one up front, good to go. Here's my recommendation, and I want to talk a little bit about how to use it. If you are very familiar with the lake that you fish and you want to save some money, the only thing that you need is one 2D sonar unit. Just one of the low price entry models, like $200 or $300. The price is going to depend on the screen size. So if you go to like a 5, 7, or 9 inch screen, it's going to go up in cost as you get a bigger screen. I would recommend going with a 7-inch screen, 2D sonar on the console, 2D sonar up front, and you're going to be into those units for both units, front and back, for less than $1,000. Probably a lot less than that, maybe $600 or $700 for both units. That's really all you need, is that 2-dimensional sonar. Now, if you fish a lake that you do a lot of offshore fishing on, or say, for example, there's a lot of offshore grass beds where you have to mark waypoints, or you're fishing ledges and drops way off the lake, then I would recommend getting the GPS 2D sonar combo. That's it. That's all you need. They make them out there where they've just got 2D sonar and a GPS unit. Going to be a little bit more, but they're still not that bad. I mean, a lot of them, you could probably get into 2 GPS 2D sonar units with a 5 or 7-inch screen for less than $1,000 easily. That is basically all you need. For my own fishing, if I was wanting to do a real budget boat, the only thing that I would use was the 2D sonar without the GPS, because I know the lakes around here so well, and I don't fish offshore as much here in the Ozarks as I do in other places. Okay, let's talk about why that's all you need. First of all, if I look back at all of my tournaments from right now, back when I started, and I've won over $2 million fishing bass tournaments, there's not one single tournament that I could not have done just as good with the old flasher. It's like, even today, it's like basically the only thing that I use my electronics for is finding how deep the water is. The way that I fish and the way I want to talk to you guys about the tips and advice here, that's the only thing I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about seeing fish or bait fish or any activity like that. Yeah, it's nice. For example, if I'm grafting around out on a main lake point and I see some shad down there, that's a good sign there might be some fish deeper or suspended. But most of the time, I don't fish like that. The way that I bass fish is I fish usually less than 10 feet deep, most all the time. There is a population of bass that live in 10 feet of water or less most all year long, even if the water is really cold. And that's the population I target. I target those 25% of those bass that live in that shallow water, and I let everybody else have the 75% that's out off the bank that they're catching with those high dollar electronics. So by me using the 2D sonar, and the way that I want to give you guys some tips and advice, is the only thing you need it for is to see how deep the water is, or to see where the breaks are, or to try to understand how the slope of the bank works. Now, sometimes your GPS, if you have one, it can help you because you can, see the contour lines and see if it's a sharp drop or a flat drop. But basically all you're wanting is to know how deep the water is. And then from there on out, you're fishing to find fish and you're breaking down shallow water targets and cover. So my primary, in my part of the country here in the Ozarks, the primary structures that we have to fish are some type of rocky banks, whether it be a bluff bank or a riprap or chunk rock bank or pea gravel. Then we have isolated wood cover, lay down trees, stumps, flooded wood cover like willow trees and buckbrushes if the water's high, and boat docks. So I've got docks, I've got shallow wood, and I've got rock. And I don't need anything else. That's all. The only thing I need is just something to tell me how deep the water is. If I had a unit that I turned on and it says 5 feet deep or 8 feet deep with nothing else on there, that'd be fine with me, because that's all I want to know is how deep the water is. So if you don't want to get into this big rat race of spending a ton of money on electronics, that is how you can do it. Is just adjust your techniques and adjust your approach in fishing to targeting that 25% of shallow fish that live there. Now, any lake in the country is going to be like this, guys. I don't care if it's a clear water lake or if it's a dirty water lake or if it's a grass lake or a rock lake. Every single lake out there is going to have a population of those shallow fish. And for example here, I live in the clear water parts of the Ozark Mountains here. So you would think that bass would be pretty deep here, but there is, again, a population of fish that live less than 10 feet deep on every lake in the Ozarks here. Some more than others. Say, for example, if I'm fishing Table Rock Lake, 10 foot in the middle of the winter time is about the minimum I fish, but that's the zone that I target. And then if I go to a lake like Stockton Lake, a lot of fish are maybe in 5 foot of water in the winter time. So it just depends on the lake that you're fishing. And it also depends on the day and the weather patterns and all that type of stuff. So the main thing, guys, is don't feel like you're missing out. If you don't have a live scope and if you don't have 2D down imaging and all the foo-foo stuff that you see out there where dudes are paying $3,000 and $4,000 for a unit, you think you're getting left behind, you're not. Just simplify, man. We did it forever. I mean, we fished with 2D sonar and with flashers forever for 50 years and never had any problem with it. And you can still do it today. I'll tell you one thing, guys. If they made a good, high-quality flasher, that's what I would use. I mean, the only reason I use 2D sonars, that's all you can get, basically, and it's nice to have the GPS option with it. And the boat that I use, my Vexus 1980, it comes rigged, with 2 Humminbird units on there, so I didn't even have any choice in that. That's just what the boat came with. But anyway, guys, that's my advice, is don't get caught up, man, in the rat race. You don't need, you can still catch a bunch of fish, simplifying it. And again, like I said, if you guys are looking for any type of electronic unit, guys, just check out Tackle Warehouse and my link in the description there. They got every electronic that's made out there, and there's some good prices going on right now with that 12 Days of Christmas sale. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk later.